Hello, everyone, and welcome. Oh, big ol' yawn from Kelsey. Hello, everyone, or snot. I can't tell. Yawn or snot, or both. Maybe both. I don't know. Welcome to
Well,
Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, friends. Hi.
I just feel like the intro cut off sooner than it usually does, and I was doing my little dance, and at the end, I always do Spider-Man hands, so I feel like you got me at the last second
I think ever
doing
since
my Spider-Man.
I re-edited it the second time, it's gotten a
Yeah,
little shorter. So like it's
interesting.
been 7 months, I think, of a shorter intro. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, so
Um.
I'm just the
So
clueless one, is what you're saying.
No, it's okay. How you doing, Kels? Welcome to Marvel's Movie Mondays, everyone. I'm Kelsey. I'm
Um,
sorry, I'm Dylan. This is Kelsey. Because your
we're
name is
off.
first up there, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's been a long week. Even though we literally just behind the scenes, we're recording this
yeah,
the day the episode came out, not the
yeah.
day it's coming. That our episode is coming out. Whereas the last episode we did was the day that episode was coming out. So really, it's only been 2 days since we last talked about Secret Invasion, at
Right.
least for us. So we're just kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of a little vertigo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm like Dill said, I'm Kelsey. He's Dill. This is
Yes.
Marvelous Movie Mondays. As you can tell, I don't know if you can hear my voice, I'm a little sick. I had a big full weekend. I went to a 300-person wedding last Thursday, so I think I was just around a lot of new germs and my body's
Have you
still
taken
getting
any COVID
uh,
tests, or is that like a thing of the
um
past for you?
I actually haven't. Maybe I should. Honestly, I was around my family all weekend and none of them were really bothered by it.
Well, I'll tell you,
But
it's like one of those things where you kind of forget about it. But my mom got COVID for the first time like a month ago. Like she had
oh,
not
really?
gotten it all this time, and then sure enough, June 2020, 23. Yeah, so it's still out there, but luckily there's better ways to combat it now, and it's less likely
Right.
and all that. We're just turned turned for the better, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anything else up in your up with you in the next? I was gonna say up with your life, but I was like that sounds weird. I guess that's a
um
phrase.
not nothing too major on the horizon. I'm going to a comedy show in Boston at the end of the month. I've never been to
Cool.
Boston before, so I'm excited to
Didn't we
explore a new
go with our
city.
choir?
No, I didn't go to Boston.
I like almost. Anyway,
I don't think
um,
no, are you talking about freshman year?
sophomore year. No,
Whatever trip you're talking about, I couldn't go to because I think I had like a dance competition.
I was gonna say yeah, we did the whole New England tour. So this will be cool for you then, Kelsey. You'll have to report.
Yeah.
Are there any MCU things set in Boston that like you can like look for,
Um
or probably not?
there isn't, but there is something set in Boston that I'm really excited to explore, and I'm going to make my friend Jess, who I'm going with, suffer through it. So basically one of my favorite video games of all time, it's Fallout 4, and the
Okay,
whole map takes place in Boston. And like you can walk around the Freedom Trail, and like the Old North Church is there, and like the Boston Commons in the game, and what's that tower that kind of looks like um Mount wait, the Washington Monument, but it's not the Washington Monument. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I like in Boston.
Bunker Hill, maybe.
Maybe.
It's
I'm
like
not from
it's like
Boston. You're asking me
it's
like I'm a tour guide of Boston. Like, hey, Paul
well,
Revere, what's this? I'm like, I don't know.
you said you went, so I thought that you maybe had like seen it or something.
Yes, I
It looks like the Washington Monument, but it's not. I think it's called
gotcha.
Bunker Hill. I think that's
Okay,
what it's called.
sure.
Um but anyway, like that's in the video game, so I'm like excited to see all these things in real life and not just
Mhm.
in a video game.
Cool.
Um But anyway, as I was saying, I am a little sick, so if you're listening on audio, you'll never know because I'm gonna mute myself every time I have to sneeze or blow my nose. But if you're watching on YouTube,
You know
you
what?
will see every single
I
time
I think
I
you
have to
should.
blow my
I
nose.
think you should give me the authentic feel. I think a whole
No, can't
elephant
do
trunk
that.
noises and all. You know, like.
But Jill, you know how there's people who don't like the chewing? There's probably a ton of more people who don't like the sneezing and the
Sure,
blowing up my trumpet noises with my
sure.
nose,
So
blowing my
so maybe
nose.
we'll like have maybe Kelsey can record her own little track like an accompany track, like a bonus feature.
Yeah, sure. The
I'm
trumpet sounds of me
yeah,
blowing my
like you can
nose.
play it on top of ours if you want that extra added effect, or you know what? Let's not. Um, we're talking about Secret Invasion episode 3. Do you have any Marvel news this week, Kelsey? Not really much has happened. No, writer strike's going on, so not a lot else is. So.
I don't have any Marvel news.
Cool. All right, so let's dive right in then. Let's
just dive right
This is
into
gonna be a
episode 3.
quicker recap because last recap we had 2 episodes to talk about. Now we only have 1, so it's gonna be pretty. Actually, wait, I do have news.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It's gonna be FOMO though. Okay.
What do you mean?
So in Disney's California Adventure, they have a theater where they used to show like they had little stage musicals, and obviously because it's Disney World and you don't want to like put on a 2-hour show, the stage musicals range from like 30 to 45 minutes. There's one in Disney World, there's one in Epcot, Animal Kingdom, where they did a Finding Nemo musical. There's one in I think that's the only like stage show. I mean, they have like a Beauty and the Beast one in Hollywood Studios, but that's outdoors. But they do like these shows, and they have one in California. And when I went 15 years ago, when I was 10, they were showing like an Aladdin show there, and that's before Aladdin had like gone to Broadway. And I remember the carpet like flew out over the audience. It was really cool. But now, Kelsey, do you know what's taken place of the Aladdin show? And I believe it became an Aladdin show into a Frozen show, and now it is do you know what show it is?
Rogers the Musical.
Rogers the Musical. And my first thought was, hey, let's watch the bootleg and then talk about it. But then I was like, you know what? Then that's kind of advocating for piracy, and I'm like, maybe we shouldn't do that. So our plan
let's not incriminate ourselves on our podcast.
I know it's also a limited engagement too. Like I know they're not going to keep it there forever. So my thought is, if I ever hit big on the sports bet or win the lottery or have some miraculous big job career breakthrough, or this channel ends up blowing up so much that we make so much ad revenue, then I'm hoping by the end of the year that we can get to California and see it. But if we don't, and you have, let us know what you think of the show. It's only like 30 minutes long, but let us know what your experience was watching Rogers the Musical if you've been fortunate enough to see it, because it looks cool. I'm trying not to watch anything because like I want to wait in case I can see it in person. But if it's only going to be there for like the rest of the year, then I'm just really hoping I can get there. But it's looking.
I wonder
the chances are grim, but
I wonder if they made more songs besides.
They definitely did.
Okay, because I'm gonna say, is it just 30 minutes of them singing? I could do this all day.
I heard it's like a full retelling of the first Avenger, just obviously a little shorter, into Marvel's The Avengers. I did see one clip where it was like him and Peggy at the end kissing, and he like says really endearingly, he's like, I could do this all day, and they kiss, and I'm like, it's supposed to be cheesy. So I'm really hope somehow, some way, Kelsey and I can get there to California to see it before it leaves, because I think it just got there. Like they were doing previews, now it's there. But hopefully someday.
It's interesting that it's Rogers the Musical. Like you think the whole thing would be like Captain America: The First Avenger, but they're making it the first Avengers film, which like really isn't a Steve Rogers.
The first Avenger, like the movie, and then the ending is what we saw, where it's like,
oh, really?
All the Avengers.
I thought you meant like the first Avenger movie, like the film.
I don't know. No, the first the movie, the first Avenger. The first
Avenger
film.
Gotcha. Understood. That makes more sense.
Not the first Avengers film. I don't know.
Yes.
I see how you thought that. I don't know. I actually need to ask if anyone has seen it. Let us know. Like how much of it is first Avenger versus the Avengers versus anything else. Maybe they go into Winter Soldier. But I hope it's there long enough to where more people can see it. I hope it's not like it's there for a month. Like I hope keep it there. Get me an audition. I would love to audition for you, Disney. All right, Kelsey. Sure. Sorry. Now we can talk about episode 3. I just want to put it out there as news. Like,
no, I love that area, bit of news.
Go see it and then let us know how it is. I don't know how cheap it is to just like stroll into Disney World and see it, but again, you don't have to like stay in a resort to go to those parks. So you don't need to stay in a resort to go to any parks, but like it's like Disneyland. It's very much like you're driving down the street and you pass Disneyland. Whereas like Disney World, it's like you drive into Disney World and then there's like a whole world in there, so it's a very different vibe, but cool vibe. But
honestly, Jill, I'm glad you brought that up because I needed to talk about something that was going to bring me joy because this episode did not. Remember when last week or in / 2 days ago for us, we said, I was like, oh, I'm excited for this show. I'm excited to see where it goes. This episode tanked for me.
That's so
Didn't
funny because
like it.
I thought this was a masterpiece episode, Kels.
Shut up. No, you didn't. Did you really?
No, of
I
course
would
not.
love the discourse
No,
if you completely
no,
disagree with me.
I've never sat and watched paint dry, but like if I had, hey, remember you weren't gonna blow your nose on camera. No, I'm kidding.
Sorry, that was my laugh.
That your laugh was very close to your blowing nose sound. I will say I just watched this like an hour ago, and
Same.
I feel like I was in a like I don't know. I don't want to be mean, but it's like what a snooze fest. Like God, and I just watched the second Mission Impossible movie before it, so like I'm just like striking out today because everyone who's watched Mission Impossible movies knows that every single one is an absolute banger to the fullest degree except for the second one. So like it's like whenever you're marathoning it, it's like the first one is such a high, and then you have to kind of like eat your vegetables with the second one, and then it all takes off from there. So I'm watching them in prep for the new one, and I'm like, God, the second one's so boring. And then I had to watch this afterwards, and it I don't know, not doing it for me either.
Yeah.
Not doing it
How many Mission Impossible movies are there?
The one in theaters next week is going to be 7. So there have been 6. So the first one's the De Palma one, which is very much like spy thriller based on the TV show. The second one kind of becomes more like we're late 90s where we're going to objectify women and everything's going to be in slow-mo and our score is going to be a hard rock score. The third one's like J.J. Abrams takes it over and it's like, no, let's make this cool again. Philip Seymour Hoffman's a villain. And the fourth one is the one with like the giant building that he has to climb on the side of, and it's the director of The Incredibles, so it's really, really intense and fun. And then Christopher McQuarrie took it over for the last 2, and I think the last one, 6, is like a masterpiece in action filmmaking. So it really is such a good franchise, but the second one's just so bad. Yeah, so go watch them, people. They're all on Paramount Plus. That's my endorsement.
Anyway, not to advertise Mission Impossible.
Yeah, no, we just need to find other things to talk about because this episode's so bad. Like, do we want to keep talking about it? Do we have to talk about it?
Yeah,
I think the shortest episode ever. Just like
I think we need to discuss it, Jill. Because there's some things to discuss. There are some things that I want to discuss. There's one main thing I want to discuss, but it doesn't happen until the end of the episode. Okay. So we'll have to.
Yeah, I think there's things to discuss here. Just the thing is, there's interesting things going on in this episode. Like there are moments where I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing, but like. It's not presented in an interesting way. And there's so much stuff in between those interesting things where I'm like, they could have given us a 2.5-hour movie with all this shit. And this whole first 3 episodes could have been the first 25 minutes of that movie. You know, it's like, I don't feel like we're going anywhere. And we're halfway through now. There's only 3 left.
Yeah. So this was episode 3 titled Betrayal. Okay. Here's my, summary for it. When Gravik tries to execute a mission in his master plan to take over the Earth, it's up to Talos, Fury, and Gaia to stop him.
Yeah, which is basically a premise for the show itself. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's basically I'm beating a dead horse here. Okay, so we open with Beto, the new recruit at New Skrellos. And the henchman, excuse me, oh my God. And the henchman, yeah, I'm okay. Me. Okay. And the henchmen going to disguise themselves as like U.S. Navy soldiers, I think. Maybe the Navy SEALs. I don't remember. I watched it twice today and I don't remember.
Navy soldiers, I think makes sense.
Yeah, something like that. And meanwhile, Gravik finally discloses what his big machine he's working on is going to do. He brings in the members of the council. He says his goal in life is to make super scrolls, basically.
Right.
And
cool idea. Not a cool idea. Yeah. I mean, that's dangerous, but like cool in terms of like interesting plot point. But again, no gravitas whatsoever with the big like. That should feel like a big thing. Like I almost want a maniacal laugh, but
and then it was not during my first not during my first watch, but during my second rewatch of this episode, Dill, that I realized that's why she's studying all these different specimens, like the Groot and the Extremis and the Frost Beast and the Colobsidian, because she's taking these DNA from these things and injecting it in the scroll so they get their powers.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about one of those things later that comes into play.
Exactly. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Here we go. All right.
Okay.
Do we need to mute? Do you need me to riff? No?
No, it passed. Okay, so now we get our stupid AI intro that I skipped now ever since you told
I don't
me that
even bother.
it's AI. And then we're in 1998, the year we were born, baby.
The year of the tiger.
It's the year of Kelsey and Dill. And we're in
really
New
quickly,
York City.
Do you remember what was the highest grossing film of 1998?
I'm going to take a guess, and it's not right. But this was the movie that came out around my birthday, and it was Saving Private Ryan.
That is number 2. That is
wow.
number 2 highest grossing. Let's go from 10 to 1. 10 is the fourth film in a franchise starring a problematic person.
Oh, is it like a DC movie?
No, it's a franchise. It's an action franchise. You may not know this one.
Is it a Fast and the Furious movie?
No, you're getting closer.
Oh.
1998.
A fourth movie in a franchise. Starring a problematic person. Is it Armie Hammer?
No. It's the problematic person was in Braveheart.
Oh, Mel Gibson?
Yeah. Do you know which franchise I'm talking about?
Oh. Can I get a hint?
Yeah, if you have a gun that can kill you, it is a
gun that can kill me? Can't all guns kill me?
Right, but like synonym.
Oh,
it's a
rifle?
No.
Shotgun.
A knife that can poison you is a
dagger.
It's a lethal weapon. Lethal Weapon 4 is number 10.
I never would have guessed that.
All right, cool.
Never.
Number 9 is the Best Picture winner of 1998. It is based on a writer we both love, a playwright. It's about the playwright's life. Romance.
Oh, Shakespeare in Love.
Correct. All right, number 8, Eddie Murphy talks to animals.
Dr. Dolittle.
Correct. Number 7 is a Disney movie, a Disney princess movie.
Oh, 1998.
Seventh grossing film of that year. So not one of the big heavy-hitting princess movies, but one that kind of gained a lot more respect over time. Has a really good song in it.
Mulan.
Correct.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. Number 6, I don't think you're going to get
this
one,
game.
so I'll just tell you. Number 6 is Deep Impact. I don't think
never would have. Never would have.
Right. Number 5 is a Pixar film. It's their second film after Toy Story. It's Disney Pixar's second film.
Is it Toy Story 2?
No, it was before Toy Story 2, after Toy Story.
This is tough. Monsters, Inc.?
No, think smaller.
A Pixar movie about really small things. Ants.
Close. Ants was DreamWorks.
Bug Story. Bugs. A Bug's Life.
Yes, there you go. Actually,
Ants
came out the same exact year, but did not gross as much. A Bug's Life is the 5th highest grossing. All right, number 4 is a rom-com starring Cameron Diaz.
Oh, The Holiday?
No, I'll give you some of her suitors: Ben Stiller, Matt Damon, Chris Elliott.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the wrong actress.
It has a pretty awkward scene where they think it's hair gel, but it's really something else going in her hair.
Ugh.
No.
She's out of my league.
No, there's something about Mary.
There's something about Mary.
When she has the jizz in her hair. Yeah. All right. Number 3 is a big monster movie. Oh, she's about to sneeze. This is just us padding time because we don't have much to say on the episode. Number 3,
it passed. A big monster movie, Godzilla.
Correct. Number 2 is what you said, Saving Private Ryan, and number 1, the highest grossing film of that year, also has to do with space.
Alien.
No, starts with the same letter.
Oh, Oh, it starts with an A and it's about space.
Mhm.
Apollo 13.
No, you're
Oh,
close. No, Bruce Willis
um,
is in it.
um,
About
astronaut.
it's about astronauts in an asteroid. It's the end of the world, aka
The day after tomorrow.
no, it starts with an A.
Apocalypse Now.
No, you're so close.
Oh, is it Apocalypse?
There's an animal that sounds like it. It curls up in the desert and it like lies on the road.
Armadillo. Armageddon.
Yeah, there you go. That's the number highest grossing film. So that was our box office game. Thanks for playing. Those are the top 10 highest grossing films of 1998. Just a little segue because I was interested. I was like, what was the high? Because we're both movie people, so I was like, what's the highest grossing? I saw. I was like Armageddon. I was like, I would have thought like Mulan because it's Disney or Bugs Life because
Yeah.
it's Disney, but Armageddon, interesting. But yeah, there you go. Sorry. Anyway, we're
Anyway,
1998.
so it's the year 1998 in New York City. And I like to call this section, speaking of rom-coms, when Fury met Priscilla. And basically she's she's sitting in
good.
this diner. He like walks in. She's like, "Huh, you looking for someone?" And I'm like, "Oh, they know each other." And then he calls her by two different names. He calls her Vara, but also Priscilla. Like he calls her Vara from the past, but then present day he calls her Priscilla. So I don't know
So
what the
yeah,
what it is here.
because you'll probably get into this, but like they talk a little bit about like, do you like my new look? And it's because that basically I think alluded to the fact that Vara is her scroll name because Vara is the lady who introduced him to um Gorbik. Is that his name? Gravik. Sorry, I always forget his name.
Gravik.
Gorbachev, Amy Gorbachev. But like yeah, has she's the one who introduces him to the kid in the flashback from last episode.
Yeah.
So we find out that Priscilla, I guess that was her scroll name, but now her like when she's presenting herself as a human, she uses the name Priscilla. I think that's what it is. It's kind of like a drag name, but like the opposite.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so she has like her scroll name and her like
Yeah. Which
human name.
answers our question from last week of does Nick Fury know his wife is a scroll? So he very well
Right.
knows.
He very
But
well
then,
knows,
but then
yeah.
that also made me think. I was like, so then why did she feel like, oh man, husband's in the door. Let me change
Got
back
it.
into
Gotta
Priscilla.
change.
Is it the fact
Sure.
that Nick Fury likes Priscilla looking more like that than the scroll? In that case,
Mm,
why let him objectify you, girl? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I agree. I agree,
So like,
Dill.
what is the purpose of her changing unless she's just like, oh, I want to look like this for my husband? But like, you shouldn't. He should love you for who you are. You don't have to change your
Yeah.
look. That's why I was
Inside
so
and
confused.
out.
Because I was like, it would have been so much more interesting if he didn't know. Like that would have been such a cool plot point.
Right. Yeah,
We
no,
should have
I
written this
agree.
show. Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of things we want to change about this show. Um Basically in this flashback scene, the only thing that I made note of is that she does give him some intel on Dreykov, who
Yeah.
we know is the big baddie from Black
Uh-huh.
Widow. Um and then we flash forward to present day. You know, Nick Fury's cooking up some breakfast in their little home, their little hideaway home in Russia. And we kind of like find out that in this scene that Priscilla's kind of up to some shady business because, you know, she's now like the 18th character to feel betrayed by Nick Fury for not just disappearing once during the blip, but disappearing a second time by going up and hiding out in Saber. And she's like, listen, I expected that you were going to be gone. I
Yeah.
did not expect that you were going to stay gone and that you
Yeah.
were
So
going
she
to
survived.
volunteer.
Yeah. So she survived the snap, and
Yeah,
apparently, when he came back from the blip, didn't come back to see her. So
right.
she's pissed,
Which,
as she kind of should be.
as she
I
should
mean,
be. I
yeah,
would be pissed too.
yeah.
And
He's right
so,
to have felt like he needed space, but she
yeah,
also is also right to be upset by it.
yeah. Yeah, a phone call. A phone call at the very least. Hey, I need
Right.
some time alone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so he's kind of starting to be suspicious of her intentions. He's like, "So what who have you become since I've been gone? Are you team Gravik or not?" And she's like, "You know who I became while you were gone? I found me. I became the real me. The me before you." That's what she said.
Mm.
And I noticed during this scene in particular because they showcased it. I don't know if it was like a promo, but she had that has that like stupid flip Samsung phone that like you flip it open, it's a touch screen. Because for some reason we need phones that are not just a whole touchscreen, but they need to fold over. And I made a note. I was like, the villain never has an iPhone because Apple never lets the villain have iPhones. But nobody, I feel like in the MCU has an iPhone, so I feel like you could.
Because now they know people caught on to that, because that was a big thing with
Right.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Is everyone figured out that Sharon was the power broker because she didn't have an iPhone. So then they
right.
changed it, I think, to now where everyone doesn't have an iPhone because they don't. Also for this show, it makes
Yeah.
sense because it's like, who do you trust, who don't you? So if they made it
Yeah.
obvious, if they showed it with the phones, it wouldn't be. I thought about that because I went to see The Blackening, and that's a film where
Yeah.
the one character who doesn't have an iPhone is the killer, basically. So you can kind of telegraph it early. Like Matt Chapman and I were talking about it. Matt, my host of Frame Rec, was talking to it with me about it because I was like, I predicted the killer early on. I mean, he didn't use an iPhone, this, that, and he was like, I think that was part of the point, and I agree it's part of the point. But it's like it does lessen the suspense a lot. That film is not a murder mystery as much as it's a satire, which is why it's almost like I think they were trying to get you to guess it. But here it would kind of ruin it if you were like, well, obviously they're Skrull or they're evil.
From
but
my
this is another one
understanding,
where like, who knows if the Skrulls are evil? Maybe the Skrulls are right and Nick Fury's wrong. Like, there's definitely evil Skrulls, but like the Skrulls in general, I think are more right in their thinking than Nick is at times. But I don't know.
They just seem more advanced than humans as a whole. So maybe we should just let them overcome Earth, honestly. So then we get this shot of, she gets a phone call. She answers it. She's like, oh, I don't have that information readily available right now. She hangs up. It's very sketchy. And then we have this one shot of Nick kind of looking at her phone. So we kind of get the feeling that he may or may not have gone through it, you know? I don't know if that's the kind of relationship you want to be in where you're keeping secrets from your boo and now you're going through each other's phone. It's not healthy, if you ask me.
Not good. Never go through someone's phone. No, it never leads to good things. Never.
So now we have this scene. See, everyone's kind of being suspicious of everyone in this episode, because now we get this scene between Gravik and Gaia where he's kind of suspecting her, because he's like, the only people who knew we were gonna be were Brogan, me, you, Beto, and the what's his name? Pagan, maybe. And so he's like, so who called the cops? And she's like, hey, it was definitely Brogan. Like, I don't know why you're looking at me. Like, he just probably snapped under the pressure of the torture. And so he, you know, take it or leave it. He may or may not believe her. And he's like, all right, come with me. We're going to go. Your dad wants to meet me and it's about you. So you're coming with me. So Talos and Gravik meet at a museum. And basically all Talos is trying to say is like, hey, don't go through with this. And he's like, no, I'm still going to do it. And so as a last ditch effort, Talos is like, well, if you do, I'm going to expose you to the world. You're no longer going to have the element of surprise. Like, they're going to know it's you coming. And basically you're going to be in charge of the extinction for our entire population, because the one thing the humans are good at are banding together when they have a common enemy, and it will be you, and they will wipe you out. And Gravik's like, no, I think I'm still pretty much better than them. Mm-hmm. And so he makes one threat about Gaia. He's like, and so where does that leave your daughter and all this? She's still with me. And that is when Talos loses it. He stabs a knife through his hand. Oh, because at one point he tries to go after him, but then we realize they all turn into Gravik.
Which was a cool shot.
That was cool.
I think compositionally, it could have been a little cooler cinematography-wise, but it was a cool shot. It was a cool shot.
Yeah, and it was cool because, like, it was kind of one of those moments where I was like, damn, I should have seen that coming. That they were like, obviously he was going to have like a mission, like a military people around him. Like, he wasn't going to go into this alone. But that just tells you right then and there that Gravik isn't that confident. I feel like when if it were to come down to a showdown between Gravik and Talos, I don't think Gravik's that confident that he would come out on top. And I think that that's why he was like, I'm definitely going to need an entourage if this goes south. So once Talos realizes that he's surrounded, he kind of backs off. But, you know, he makes one kind of rash comment about Gaia. And that's when Talos snaps. He's like, stabs him in the hand, through the hand to the table with the knife, gets him in a chokehold, and is like, okay, that is the last time I hear my daughter's name in your mouth. And
Yeah.
honestly, I was like, Ben Mendelsohn. That was good. That was a good move.
Oh yeah, he's doing great in the show.
Yeah.
He's stealing the show. I think
I
he's
think
just such a
he's
good
my
actor.
favorite part
Oh yeah, he's great.
of it all. And then we see he removes his hand from out of the knife by slicing the cut clean, and then he heals himself. And where have we seen that before?
Extremis, baby, Iron Man 3.
There is Extremis. He's got the Extremis in him. Which, let's just talk about this right now. How do you feel about the fact that past things from the MCU are kind of being recycled right now? Because there
I'm fine
may
with
be
that.
more things down the line.
I'm
that
fine with
we
that
see
because
someone
it
do.
just felt like such a big thing, like this whole Extremis thing. To only have it for a movie
Yeah.
wouldn't really make sense, because it's like, why wouldn't more villains be trying to get their hands on these things? You know, like it makes sense
Right.
that some of these things are going to continue to evolve, and you know, it's not like the Infinity Stones where like every villain now is going to try to get the Infinity Stones to get it their way. Like that's just not going to happen because there was so much time devoted. But I'm fine with these like
Right.
one-offs, like we saw with
Sure.
She-Hulk, the Abomination. He didn't see his full potential. You know, they used him for one movie and that was it. The show gave us time to like flesh out that character. Extremis,
Yeah.
we saw it once. Let's see if we can just use it in another way again. Maybe, I don't know. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm on the fence a little bit because
Okay.
I do like the nods to past projects. I do like the, nudge nudge winks wink kind of thing, because it kind of makes it feel like being a fan for this long has kind of paid off. Because you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, but I feel like this is a villain we've dealt with before. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
we've
It starts to become a bit redundant. Yeah, I see that.
But I'm not going to use the word redundant just yet. I'm just saying it has the potential to feel that way.
And I think it'd be cooler if they use these things in different ways. You know, like I looked at Taskmaster and that was such a letdown because we were promised by the marketing this character that adopted styles from each Avenger and like they fought like each Avenger. And I wish they leaned into that more. You know, I wish the action sequences were more like, and now they're Captain America, now they're Black Panther, all these things. So I think if you can use callbacks, as long as you use it in a fresh and exciting way and aren't just doing it to be like, look at the reference, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we're worried we're getting into, but I hope they don't get into.
So now we get, I wanted to ask you something else, but I forgot.
I don't know.
This is what I wanted to say, is that instead of getting that exposition in the beginning of the episode, if he was like, when he was like, oh, this is what we're doing now, we're making super scrolls. If he had just like gotten hurt and then healed himself with the Extremis, like imagine us being like, oh, you know what I mean?
Right. It
could have been a cooler reveal
because you kind of foreshaded it earlier. Exactly. I agree.
Missed opportunity.
The shows. I feel like there's so much time now with the 6-hour format that they're almost giving us too much information. Like cut right to the chase with some of these things instead of like, these exposition dumps that you can just show us later. Show don't tell, and this would have been a perfect opportunity.
And what's ironic, Dill? This was the shortest of the 3 episodes so far,
right?
And it still felt like they were using time weird. They're like using their time weird to show us and tell us different things, and it's weird. So basically, while Guy's in the car with Gravik on the way to the meeting, she gets the details about this like bombing that's going to go down. So basically, Gravik is making it so this British ship called Neptune is that's what
Which
I meant.
Probably a bad timing to release a plot point about I immediately when they said Neptune I was like, oh, ocean, and then they said submarine I was like, okay, yeah.
Well, anyway,
that's just a bad coincidence.
Inopportune time to release a plot about revolving around a submarine, but and that's neither here nor there. So basically the whole thing is that they've taken over like the general commander of the submarine, and basically the submarine is going to launch a missile at a UN airplane while
Yeah.
it's flying over. That's the whole thing that Gravik is trying to um, do, accomplish. That's the word I was
His
looking
plan, or
for.
so we think.
In
Yeah.
in order to exactly, or so we think, in order to get World War III to happen here. And so Gaia passes along the information to her dad via burner phone by pretending to be someone else, bumping into him on the street, and then handing him the burner phone. And it's like little moments like that where I'm like, okay, that was definitely a scroll. That was definitely Gaia.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you know. So then we cut to a pub where Talos is trying to enjoy a nice little English breakfast.
A cuppa
You know,
and some eats. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Some bangers and mash. It wasn't bangers and mash, but that's the only like right, English food that I could come up with on the spot.
Fish and chips, shepherd's pie,
Okay, well,
Scotch egg.
all right. Thank you, Dill. So basically, Nick comes into this pub to indirectly ask Talos for his help. He's like, listen, because the last time they saw each other was when they had their big argument on the train. And, but like, the things that were said then kind of needed to be said. I'm glad they're airing out their dirty laundry, but at the end of the day, they are still partners in crime together. So, excuse me, Nick finds Talos at this pub and he's like, all right, I got this intel. Let's do it. And he's like, Talos is like, no, I actually think I need to hear you say the words, Talos, I need you, and I'm kind of useless without you.
Yeah, good for him.
And lo and behold, Fury does turn around and he does say it. And then right away, Talos is like, all right, then let's get to work. And so now Fury calls Sonya because he kind of needs more intel about who's running the show on this ship. On the submarine, and it's a British submarine, so she should, being an MI6 operative, she should, be able to have some intel here. But she's kind of caught up in her own bind, being that so the cops got called on her like butcher interrogation, and then she had to escape from that. So now she's trying to see um who the mole is in her own kind of neck of the woods. But isn't the whatever. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode.
Okay.
So we learn that his name is Robert Fairbanks, and now this is who we have to go kind of rough up a bit to get some information out of him. So then Nick and Talos go to his compound to stop the attack by impersonating him. They get into a fight because on the way there, because Talos is kind of like, hey, man, like, give me some credit because I'm kind of a big reason why you, Nick Fury, are the Nick Fury you are today, because I was giving you all your intel and you were only bumping up the ranks when I came into your life. But this is a great moment that I just loved. Like, I just love this little buddy bromance. Like, I'm living for it. And this is, I feel like, the only redeemable part of the show.
Well, that's the thing, is the character moments between the interactions are so much more interesting than the actual plot. And I think that's the problem the show is having. And that's not a bad thing, but like when the show is so like, we're going to be a spy thriller, it's going to be so plot heavy, and then the plot itself isn't exciting enough or gripping enough, and the execution isn't, if this had been like presented as Nick Fury trying to grapple with his present in lieu of the past 5 years and the blip and all that, then I think it would have been a much more successful show, because the stuff that's working is the reflective stuff, the stuff with Nick and Talos, and then of course with the daughter and maybe his son. I still have my theory, but the villain, and then of course with Rhodey as well last week. Like, I think we're getting good character interactions, but that's not what the show. It needs to be making up for it with also good plot too, and I just don't think the plot's very exciting. So
no,
but this moment was very nice to see, especially because we do know these characters well enough now from a movie and then this as well, like to where I feel really engaged with their relationship. It's not even romantic, but it feels very bromantic. You know what I mean?
Yes, they just have good chemistry together, and you kind of almost like. I love when there's just like a friendship on screen, because we kind of don't get that a ton. Like, I feel like I'm I'm probably the biggest offender of this is like I see two people on screen share a moment together and I'm like, oh, they're in love. Like, oh my
I know.
God, they're
Stephen
perfect
Bucky.
together.
Yeah.
But like I just love like a platonic friendship, you know, especially between two grown men, because I feel like grown men friendships like
Though
don't get showcased enough in media.
though it would be interesting and cool to see like them take a turn to where like they end up falling for each other. Like that'd be
I
pretty
would
bold.
love it.
That'd
I
be
would love
pretty
that
bold. If
too.
Marvel did that, honestly, if Marvel had the gall to do that, I would slap another star on this. Whatever rating I'm gonna give this at the end of it, I would give an extra star if they are able to take it to that direction. I don't think that'll
Yeah,
happen. But especially
because
because we're
Talos.
also getting we're Taylor
No, go
Sauce's
ahead.
wife, Taylor Sauce's wife, Nick Fury's wife, they're not getting along.
They're
Like
on the fritz.
it could happen.
Yeah. Because Talos has this great moment where he says, and I never even like asked for a thank you. I don't want to thank you because it was my pleasure to do that for you, like as your friend.
Yeah.
And I just thought that that was so darn sweet. And then they kind of like Nick just like dismisses this whole big speech he has and is like, "Okay, are you ready to go through with the mission now?" And I'm like, oh, "You're kind of a shitty friend, Nick Fury. You kind of suck."
He really sucks in this series, and I get it. He's going through shit, but like I've not found it pleasant. And I love Samuel
Yeah.
Jackson, but I have not found him
And
pleasant.
it's not even, I feel like it's not even like Samuel Jackson's fault or the way that
No,
they,
no, not at
or
all.
maybe it is like partially the way they wrote Nick, but it's also that every single scene where Nick encounters a new character, the new character just has to tell him, "You just fucking changed since the blip, man. You are not your old self." Like literally every scene with a new character he interacts with,
Yeah.
they're like, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, "Okay, we get it. He's tired. He's been at this 10 plus years now. Forgive the
Mhm.
man."
Yeah, it's like the new Indiana Jones. If they every 10 minutes were like, "Ah, that arthritis, buddy. Like, you might need to, you might
Right.
need to go home. I mean, have you been taking your pills? Like, yeah, like don't stop. Like, we can get it the first time. We get it.
Right. So basically we get into this whole tussle with like the guards and there's a shootout and then Talos pretends to be the general commander guy, Robert Fairbank. Is that what his name was? Yeah, Fairbanks. And then we hear on the comms, you know, Talos goes kind of quiet for a minute, and then we hear on the comms like, "Oh, Nick, I was kicking his ass. I'm up here on the second floor." And then, you know, Nick comes up there. He's got his son held at gunpoint. He's like, "Well, nobody calls me Nick, so try again." And I was like, "Oh, call back to Captain Marvel. Love it."
Mhm.
Um, and then we kind of have this moment where there's kind of this standoff. You know, Nick has the gun to the son, and Talos has the gun, or the Robert Fairbank, the
Has
Skrull,
the
has
gun
the gun to Talos,
to
and you know he obviously like saves his son's life by letting Talos go,
yeah. Which also
and
not really helping Nick Fury's image. Having him, I get it, I get the concept, but having him
right,
hold a gun up to a kid is probably not the
right.
best thing
He
to
was,
sell this.
yeah, he was one tough cookie in this episode. He wasn't given no
Yeah.
shits. He
He was
was
like the
like,
cookie
"I
that's been
need
out
this
for a week
information."
that like is a little crumbly, but you like still
Yeah.
want to eat, but you're like, oh, this sucks.
I'm definitely gonna need some extra milk to soften this guy up. You know what I
Need some
mean?
extra
It's
Talos milk. Yeah. Ew.
and so they tie him up. They're trying to threaten the information out of him. They're like, "How do we stop this? Tell us what we need to know." And Talos is like, "Hey, hey, hey, put the gun down. We don't have to be violent." Then the guy says one wrong thing about Gaia, shoots him dead in the chest. Shoots him, doesn't blink. And I was like, then why were you like so gun ho about not killing this guy? If when the second he said Gaia's name, you were like, nope, can't do that. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, Talos has his flaws too, I guess.
Well,
We
yeah,
can't
yeah.
all
Twice
be
now in this
perfect.
episode, he's heard his daughter's name once and has flipped out. Which,
Yeah.
granted, he's a father. I've never been a father. I can't
It's the
relate.
only
But it's
person left in his family, you know? He
right.
lost his wife, now it's
Ugh.
just him and God. Okay, well, I
Well,
spoke too soon.
well, fuck.
All right.
Yeah, no. Talos is about to have a
So
trip next episode. Talos is about to lose his fucking shit again.
now that the guy is the Skrull is dead, we need to get the information. We need the passcode to shut down the mission some other way, and we that other way is Gaia. So she's able to kind of scroll the guy's memories because, they have everyone chained
What?
up at the
She's
compound.
able to what the guy's memories?
Scroll. Okay, you got
Sorry,
me,
I thought that was
Jill.
really funny. I thought that was.
Unintentional dad joke, all right?
Well, I'm enjoying it because Talos isn't going to be a dad for much longer, so I just wanted to kind of,
Okay. My God, what is this show? Okay,
keep going.
so she gets who she gets the passcode from the
Ha!
guy.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh my, Adam Sandler. Hoo.
Get the password for the submarine.
He's
Yeah,
quickly approaching white men I don't like. I have a list on my phone.
no. Oh, Kelsey, you gotta.
Maybe not now.
No, Sandler, he's the sweetest guy too in real life. Like he's such a sweet,
Okay.
like he's such a good guy. Don't turn on him
Okay.
too.
All right, I
You
won't.
already got Keaton, hurt my soul, but don't
All
do it.
right,
To
all
him.
right. I'll keep Sandler off the list.
Yes, thank you.
Just never do an impression like that ever again, and he'll be off the list.
Sorry.
So she gets the passcode, and it turns out to be his son. So it was Zachary. So they're able to shut the mission down before anything bad happens. But now Gaia needs to get the fuck out of there because she's betrayed the compound like 3 times now. So something's gonna be catching up with her. So she goes to escape. Once again, Nick and Talos have this like scene together, and Nick is just kind of like, so why didn't you take Gravik's deal? Like, why aren't you team Gravik? And after kind of like hassling the answer out of him, Talos finally says, I'm not with him because I'm with you. And
Cute.
oh, what a loyal son of a bitch. And then I wrote down, they're in love. And then
I told you.
they cut away. They shared this beautiful moment. Excuse me.
Oh, there's a call from Kelsey, just narrating it, so there's no dead air. All right, welcome back.
Thank you. They cut away from this beautiful moment. It's such a weird cut. The end of this episode infuriated me. They cut back to Gaia on the run, and she's on this motorbike, and she's going through the woods, and you think everything's gonna be fine, and the entire time I'm just waiting. I'm like, someone's gonna be waiting for her. They're all gonna it's gonna be a siege, and they're gonna stop her from truly escaping.
Which is naturally what you think is gonna happen, and you think maybe she's gonna get captured.
Right. So then Gravik's waiting there in the middle of the road, headlights on, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And she's like, "Oh, I heard that the mission failed, so I was coming to get you." Obviously, she's trying to lie her way out of this one. And he's like, "Yeah, well, this whole mission was just to find out who the mole was, and now I know it's you." And he goes, "Turn around." And she goes, "Oh, no, if you want to kill me, you have to look me dead in the eyes and you have to ask yourself," bam, shoots her. She's dead. Gaia's dead.
I mean, here, and we know it's her too because she turns into the scroll too. I was hoping like it was a scroll as Gaia, but that wouldn't have made sense because she already is a scroll to where like that one. I mean, listen, you already did Maria Hill dirty in the first episode, but at least we have 9 films to like get to know her. Whereas like this is your literally the 2 big stars you were like, guess who we got? Well, number 1 is Olivia Colman, who barely does shit in this episode. Still isn't really doing much, but it's still fun. She put an eye patch on an owl. Cool.
Oh yeah,
on
that
her
was
little
funny.
hoot. Yeah. And then Emilia Clarke, literally the girl who like was the face of the Game of Thrones franchise for 8 years, and who, granted, some people didn't like her character turn in season 8, but she's still amazing and she's really good. And you said something like Me Before You earlier, and I thought of that movie she was in called Me Before You, and she was great in that. Now you're just gonna kill her off in the 3rd episode when we I barely know Gaia. Like we only saw one scene with her and her dad, really. I mean, like I really wanted something. Maybe at least a flashback. Maybe the next episode we'll see a flashback of her when she was young with him. Like another flashback, but weird that like it happened like that, unless it's a fake out, but then it's like that also feels cheap. It's like, no, like commit to it, but then I don't know. I don't know if I'd rather a fake out or just I'd rather it not happen at all, but like if it's gonna happen, I
I
would have
just
just
feel
liked
like
for it to happen after we gotten a big arc from her, you know.
this show is keeping me on my toes in the worst ways. Like, if this happened, I feel like in any other movie, in any other series, and it was a character that maybe we had like known for a long time, then like, oh yeah, unexpected death, like holy
Maria
shit,
Hill. Yeah.
never would have seen that coming. But yeah, Maria Hill, literally 2 episodes ago. But this new character who I had just said in our last episode, I'm excited to see the relationship between Talos and Gaia and what it turns into and what happens. And now she's just gone.
Well, and I thought she was gonna be the one to like kind of bridge the gap and like make it all
Right.
okay in the end. I thought she was gonna be our main character. Like I thought it was gonna kind of shift from Talos and Nick, sorry, Talos and Fury. We don't call him Nick to Gaia,
I've
but
been
it
calling
just
him
didn't.
Nick.
I know I've been calling him Nick too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just weird, a weird choice. But I think the problem is it was anticlimactic. I think if you had really
Mm.
built it up, like think about Avengers Endgame, the way the build up to Natasha's death happens, you don't think it's gonna happen watching the movie, and then when it happens, you're
Yeah.
still like, wait, what just happened? But it
Yeah.
still like has an epic nature to it because of the way they present it. That's the thing. It's like ideas are one thing on the page, but then how you convey it and show it, present it is a whole nother ball game. And this just is
Yeah.
doing it in such a boring way, and it's like it's so anticlimactic. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't climactic. Make this your final beat of the episode too. Then don't continue to give us stuff after this and end it with a phone call. Like,
Yeah. And also, I don't even like this Priscilla woman. I'll say it. I'm bothered by her. I liked it better when I thought Nick Fury was single and alone. I wanted him lonely.
well, I think he mentions in Winter Soldier he has a wife, but you never know she's a scroll. I think that's the thing, right? Did we know she had a wife?
Oh,
You know what?
he says because
Or
he
maybe you
has
think she's gone. You know?
because well, I thought that it was a lie because it's during the scene where he finds out that Shield has been infiltrated by Hydra, so he's trying to tell Cap secretly in
Mm.
his apartment. So he's like, "Oh, why are you here?" And he's like, "My wife kicked me out." I thought that was just like a full lie, just
Yeah, I
so
don't
he
know.
could be like Shield compromise, without
Right.
actually saying anything useful.
Well, it might have been a lie,
Um,
but it might have been like Cap
but it
already knew he had a
also,
wife, so he used his wife for the lie. I don't know. But either way, yeah, like I just feel like it's an I mean,
yeah,
continue on with the recap because then we can talk a little bit more about the ending. But
yeah.
yeah, so Gaia dies
Well,
supposedly.
and then our last scene is Priscilla going to a
All right, so this is the next
lockbox.
scene. Okay,
Yeah.
so okay.
So Priscilla goes to a lockbox, and inside of it, she seems surprised. It didn't seem like she knew what was going to be inside this box because she gets a call seemingly telling her to go to it. So then she goes to the lockbox. She's surprised to find out that it's a gun, and then she gets another phone call, and she's like, "Well, I want to talk to Gravik." And whoever is on the other end, probably the main henchman of the series, is like, "Well, too bad
Well,
because you're talking to me."
wait, do you not know who it was?
Wait, who was it?
It's Rhodey. That's Don Cheadle's voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wait,
no, Rhodey. Yeah,
did they say that in the subtitles?
no, but I mean, it sounded a lot like I just assumed because they also showed in the previously on, and Rhodey was not in this episode. That was my first thought is, oh, it's Rhodey and Rhodey's a scroll, so that wasn't Rhodey.
Oh.
But still, again, cool
Oh.
idea, but then you present it in this way to where half the audience, like yourself, was probably like, that's just another man's voice. Because let's be honest, Don Cheadle's voice isn't the most distinguishable. Like, you know Samuel Jackson's voice, you probably know RDJ's voice, but like you probably know Hemsworth, but there are some voices where you're not 100% sure whose it is. And
Right.
you know what, it would have been great if they just cut away and it's him on the other line. Just show us. Like, why would you make it
Right.
so big? Unless it's not him and I'm reading into it. But who else would it be? And if you're gonna end your
Well,
episode that way, just make it a mic drop. Show Rhodey.
now, yeah.
You know what I
Wow,
mean?
Jill, you just exploded my brain. I feel so dumb. I feel
No,
like I need to
but that's the
rewatch
thing.
the
No,
last
you
episode.
you shouldn't feel dumb because the show, despite the cool idea to have Rhodey be the bad guy and he's a scroll
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
they didn't show it. Like, if you just cut away and had Rhodey like smiling and put down the phone, or if you just had him deliver the line, or if you had even said in the subtitles Rhodey and she says okay Rhodey or something like that. I don't know. Well, obviously it's not Rhodey, so maybe not. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird because it's like you have this big moment, but now you shouldn't feel dumb because everyone should feel dumb because they didn't show it was him if it is him, and
Right.
that's a weird artistic choice. I don't know. It's weird.
So now here's my other thing about Gravik, Dill, or Gravik. I feel like this is like he's kind of okay. Off of this, if there's one kind of semi-positive thing to say about Gaia's death, is that I would say is that it really showcases Gravik as a really just ruthless guy
Yeah.
who's just like, you know, like he's tough. Like there's no shaking him, you know, like
Mhm.
he'll kill like his you know right hand man if they look at him wrong kind of thing. And like it kind of almost feels like he has the potential to be like a really good villain in the MCU. Like
Oh
he
yeah.
almost this whole concept I feel could honestly be like a movie's worth like leading up to thing like with Thanos. You know what I mean?
Here's my pitch. Here's my pitch, right?
Go ahead.
If you want to make the whole rest of this phase about Kang, right, and you're probably not going to be able to use that actor anymore or much longer. He's already
Yeah.
filmed Loki season 2. He's probably already filmed some post credits for things, but you can't use him. Let's say maybe, and you still want to keep it honest because I also think they should keep it honest to the comics and cast a black actor. You now have had a great villain in Guardians 3, black actor. You
Mhm.
now have this villain, which I don't think is a great villain yet, but like I think Kingsley Benadir is doing a great job in the role.
Mhm.
I think this
Mhm.
could be a cool, like almost like audition tape for that. Like if and then you decide which character you want to make a Kang variant, and there you go. There's your new Kang. Like you could literally
Yeah.
be like, oh, I was the grand what's the name? The one from Guardians 3, the villain.
High
High Evolution, yeah.
evolutionary.
The High Evolutionary was really a variant of Kang, or Gravik was really a variant of Kang. He wasn't a scroll. Like maybe because we haven't seen him
Yeah.
as a scroll. We haven't, right? Except for him as a kid.
Well, we've seen him like shapeshift into other people in
Right, but who's
episode
to say
1.
that maybe he's its own thing, or maybe a super scroll is also because he's a Kang variant. Like, there's ways I think that you could make if you want to have some of these villains, because you're really not going to need the High Evolutionary in any other movies. There's really no point to have him in any other movies. But if
Right.
you want that actor around, maybe then you make him the new Kang or something. And that your comment made me think of that. I was like, what if they have like even kill Gravik off, but then it turns out that was a Kang variant, and then Kingsley Benadir is the new Kang. I don't know, because I love Kingsley Benadir.
Right.
He's going to be in the new
Yeah.
he's going to be in the new Bob Marley movie as Bob Marley, like, and he'll probably get an Oscar nomination for it, which would be cool.
Oh,
But
nice.
and he was
No.
also in One Night in Miami. He played Malcolm X, and he was amazing in that. Yeah. So
It's just like this whole concept feels like too big for this show. It almost gives me the same feeling of like when only Captain America and Natasha were both taking down Shield
in Winter
in The
Soldier,
Winter Soldier
exactly.
because I feel like that's huge. That's all of Shield that all of the Avengers work for being like taken down and infiltrated by
Yeah.
Hydra. Like this is all of planet Earth being taken over by Skrulls. Like and they keep saying like, you know, we're not getting the Avengers involved because they could be replicated and you know, a Skrull could do some fuck shit looking like
it's really because they
Thor.
can't pay all those actors. That's
No,
really
it's
why,
really
you know?
that's really what it is. But you know, also in the context of the show, it makes sense. But it just feels like this could be extended to like its own movie, and
Oh yeah,
I'm kind
it
of
should have been a
disappointed
movie.
that it's not.
It should have been
But
a
I
movie.
guess we are getting
Concept.
a 6-hour movie.
I talked about how I didn't like the whole idea of the Skrulls being enemies after Captain Marvel. Like, I didn't like that whole idea because it also feels a little anti-immigration, all that stuff, right wing, whatever. But I think just if you're gonna make a spy movie like this, where like there's untrustworthiness and betrayal and all these things, then yeah, I think it should have been a movie because you want it to almost be a tight, like tight 2 hours. You want to get right to the action and you want it to move. That's why the Mission Impossible movies are so good. And maybe I'm just bringing up this example because I'm watching them right now. I'm marathoning them, but like it's such a tight, like it moves so fast because it's only 2 hours to tell all the story. Here you're elongating it 6 hours. And I just don't think that's the right format for this. If you're going to make a movie like this, I think that's why Winter Soldier works so well, is because you only had 2.5 hours to tell the story. If that was elongated over 6 hours, we may be like, all right, this is boring. Who's this Alexander Pierce guy? And I really don't know if it would have been as good. I think really the strength of those movies is that the editors were able to get it to a tight 2.5 hours, which doesn't sound tight because a lot of movies are even shorter. But in terms of MCU, I just think the series, you need to use the series to do like She-Hulk, where it's like every episode's a new adventure, or WandaVision, where every episode something else is added onto the layer of this onion, rather than we're just telling one story over 6 episodes. I think that's the problem with Falcon and the Winter Soldier too, and I love that show, but I think it's just too many episodes. Not enough is happening, and the stuff that's happening is elongated to fill time, and it doesn't need to. It needs to just cut to the chase. And you can have moments where they just talk and have moments, because there are great moments like that in the show, but everything else in between is taking too long. And then the climactic moments don't feel climactic because everything just kind of feels on one level. Gaia's death doesn't feel like anything. You know what I mean? It should feel like something, especially because he's Emilia Clarke too.
Right. And like the death happened, and I immediately was like, like I didn't have like a huge reaction, like other than when it was a really like this is what I'm saying about the end of the show. Hold.
Oh, she's going for another one. She's clearing the throat, and she's back.
Sorry, I just didn't want to have that on audio. But this is what I'm saying with the end of the episode and how weird the cuts were, because they were taking a long time for some things and not enough time for others, like that moment between Fury and Talos that I was just talking about. But also, right after the death, we get this long shot of Gravik driving away. So I thought that like the next shot was going to be her like getting up. And like I was hoping that like, she was just waiting for the car to be far away enough that she could be like, okay. Okay, I gotta get out of here. You know what I mean?
Like, why would they?
But then it like never came. So that was the only moment where I was like, all right, get up. And then it didn't come. So I was like, so why show me this long, complicated shot? And
if they're gonna have her like wake up, I feel like you cut the episode there, and the next episode starts with her waking up. But they really wanted the final beat to be Rhodey's a Skrull. So that's why it's like, or maybe it might not even be, because it's so confusing. It's not even confusing. It's just not clear. That's the thing. It's right. I'm like, there are movies that are confusing that I love because they're confusing and have a lot of layers. This isn't confusing. This is just kind of unfocused. But yeah, like they should have ended it on Gaia's death, and then the next episode have her like wait. I mean, that's what happened to Maria Hill. She died, and the next episode it's like, oh, she's gonna be okay, and then it's like, no, she's not okay. Well, now we can be at peace with it. But here it's like big death, and then move on to this other less climactic scene of her answering a phone when we don't really like her character or know her character. It's just so bad. I just feel bad because this had so much. There's so much potential here in terms of the style and the presentation. Whatever the story is, whether or not it's anti-immigrant or not, they could have still made it look cool, and they did.
The first 2 episodes, like I was in it. I was like, okay, like cool. I'm ready for like some good spy heisty stuff going on. And this episode just totally like dropped off for me.
Well, maybe it'll redeem it. I mean, that's a good thing too, is like there's still 3 episodes, and usually they end pretty well. I mean, all our shows we kind of watch, it's been like good opening episodes, middle, great end, at least for a few. Where some have been consistent, like Loki and all those, but I feel like for the most part, it's like it started strong, ended strong, the middle was so-so. But we'll see. I don't know. Any last thoughts on this episode?
The old that was a sentence. No final thoughts.
Next week we're going to be talking about episode 4. Hopefully things are on the up and up.
Looking up.
Hopefully things are looking up. And then I believe the week after will be trivia, or maybe the week after that. The last Monday is the 31st, so maybe the trivia will be in 2 weeks. I don't know. But that'll also be finale week. So we'll probably do episode next week, then trivia, then another episode. I don't know. And we still got to solidify those matches. I will not say who they are because I don't know yet.
I was going to say, or is it the free-for-all?
No. The free-for-all will be... We got to film the free-for-all later in the summer, but that's going to be like a big thing I need to schedule and all that. So.
Okay.
Cool. Anywhere they can find you, Kels? Any last words to fans before we... Fans. To our viewers, listeners, before we go? Y'all aren't fans. Maybe you are.
I also meant to... Please, Dill. We have fans. Let's just say it how it is. I also meant to preference this episode being like, I don't have a ton of positive things to say, but it also might just be the mood that I'm in and the fact that I am sick, and it's it's making me grumpy.
Mood. I'm in a great mood. I got back. Work was okay, but like I got back, I was very hot because it's hot in the city.
It's hot. It's so hot.
But I mean, I have an air conditioner. Someone here doesn't. But I'm kidding. Not to throw shade, but what are you doing,
All
Kelsey?
right.
I get one. But no, like I got home, I got in the air conditioning. I was like, and then I went into my shower. I took a cold shower. I was like,
Ooh.
this is great. And then by the time I had gotten nice and cold, I then made it hot because like I didn't want to get from hot weather inside and then go right into a hot shower. So instead I like started off cold and then worked my way to hot. It was really nice. And then I got out, and then by the time I had gotten out, then my room and everything else felt cooler. Had a great conversation with my roommate who had just got back from a trip, and then like we were here doing the podcast, and then I watched the episode, and then we're here doing the podcast. So I'm like, I was in a good mood.
Yeah.
And I still didn't like this episode. So it's not your mood. All that being said, it's not your mood. That 8-hour tangent I just went on to say, it is not your mood. Trust me.
Well, anyway, you can find me at Instagram, Kelsey A. Kilpatrick, or you can follow me on TikTok at Cause13.
Cool. Find me at Dylan_Randazzo, Twitter, and Letterboxd. Check out my Letterboxd. And check out Kelsey's Letterboxd. I forget her name. What is it? Kelsey Kilp?
It's either Kelsey Kilp or Kelsey A. Kilp.
Okay. Well, look at her Letterboxd. She's now back from her little vacay, so hopefully she'll be logging some more movies so you can see what she's watching, maybe putting up some star reviews. See me at Dylan Randazzo 417 TikTok. I'm actually in the process of making a Dill Pickle Movie Network TikTok because I like my personal TikTok. I like to post singing videos on, but I think the people who follow me for that may not want clips of me being like, these 5 movies ranked blindly. So maybe I'll do a Dill Pickle Movie Network TikTok so that myself, and if they want to, Chad, Kelsey, Matt, can do any movie related TikToks and we could put it there and it can kind of be like the channel's TikTok account. I think that'd be fun. I'm going to work on that.
Yes,
so by the time you're listening to this on Monday, that'll be up and running. So check out that at probably the Dill Pickle Movie Network. If anyone else has that name, whoa. And then the Dill Pickle Movie Network.
We'll just have to kill him.
Okay. Or the podcast, the Dill Pickle. Actually, no, this is on its own podcast feed, Marvel-ous Movie Mondays, and I'm in the process of getting those episodes back because Spotify bought Anchor, so now Spotify distributes our podcast, so we can't do it the way we used to, where it just automatically goes up on Mondays. So now I have to actually do it manually, and I realized Kelsey texted me the other day that we were slipping behind again, so I'm in the process of catching up on that. So by next Monday, that'll be fixed as well. Everything's going to be fixed, I promise. But it'll all be up and running smooth sailing as we head into the second half of the year. Kelsey, really quick, top 5 movies of this year so far. Now that we're halfway there. Any idea?
God,
no. Way to put you on the spot. Sorry.
You really put me on the spot. I don't even know if I've seen 5 movies this year.
You have. Because we definitely saw Spider-Verse, and Guardians, and Ant-Man. You saw a Scream, and did you see 5?
Okay, I can definitely tell you that my top movie of the year to this day is Guardians 3. So I'll give you that.
Cool. My number 1 movie of the year so far is a movie called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. It's so good.
Oh, right. You told me to see that. Good. I got to see it.
But yeah, why don't we prep those for next week? We can talk about our favorite movies of the year so far, just as another little added bonus. Because I feel like if this show keeps going the way it's going, we're going to want other things to talk about. And this week, we took like 5 minutes to talk about the highest grossing films of 98. I think that could be a fun thing to just kind of like in the middle of our episode, just be like, all right, segue. Let's take a break for a second, talk about this. Just because if the episodes keep ending up being as bad as this, we're going to need it. So thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.